This is one of four known diaries from the 1858 Fraser River Gold Rush. It's the only one in private hands, and it's the only one written by an anonymous Canadian miner who came to British Columbia from California in 1858. The diary spans a time period between July and October. The anonymous Canadian miner was well supplied and thus befriended Canadian government officials upon his arrival in Victoria. He was told by them that if they gave him letters of introduction, he could send reports back from how things were on the river. I guess the officials figured that reports from a well-informed or well-provisioned miner would be as good or better than ones from their officials on the ground there. So that's what happened. They headed up the Fraser with great difficulty and expense, employed some indigenous guides who were a great help to them and were admired by them, and had some success mining on the Fraser. We learned from the diary that nuggets were rare and flake was common, that most people were ill-equipped and the working was hard, and of course its supplies were rare on the Fraser. You could hunt, and of course your native guides would help you trade for better food than the provisions you were carrying. The diary was previously offered at US $45,000 by a leading bookseller and was acquired by the author of Gold, Grit, and Guns, a new book about miners on the BC's Fraser River in 1858. It is the basis of Chapter 8 in that book. Sadly, although the miner was successful in his Fraser River ramblings, he ultimately drowned in the Caribou. He had a brother in Victoria, so there's tantalizing opportunities to try and find the identity of the miner by continuing research on the diary. Here's a picture of the miner, probably taken in San Francisco before his passage to Victoria and then the Fraser River Goldfields. This is an exciting historical artifact, again, few in private hands. The importance of it is essentially that British Columbia was transitioning from Hudson's Bay Company lands at that time into a colony of Great Britain. British Columbia was largely unexplored and mostly had only indigenous persons living in it at that time because there was an influx of American gold miners from the California Gold Rush to Fraser River on the news that the Hudson's Bay Company had sent a steamship with gold in it from the Fraser. British Columbia, led by Governor Douglas in Victoria, had to fend off the invasion of 30,000 miners on the Fraser River, and it's possible that not only would British Columbia have been absorbed by the United States if diplomacy hadn't quickly come into play, but Canada also would not be the confederation it is today if British Columbia hadn't worked things out to make things a twin colony of British Columbia and Vancouver's Island and fend off American interests at that time. So the only Canadian written diary from the 1858 Fraser River Gold Rush, and the only one in private hands, an important and interesting historic item passing through all nations, stamp and coin.